Welcome, fellow Lions fans. I hope you guys all enjoyed the bye week, basking in that victory sung. Unfortunately, most of the results did not go our way over the weekend. Somehow, all our division rivals just keep winning. In Minnesota, Sam Darnold wasn't his usual MVP level form, but he was good enough to get to 5-0. He beat Aaron Rodgers, who was his usual MVP form, now with his passing, as he had 3 INTs and looked terrible. We're talking about his MVP level whining. We always knew his whining to refs cross state lines, cross time zones, traveled from small towns to big cities, and was always completely independent of how shitty of a pass he just threw. But now we know his whining crosses oceans as he played in England last weekend. I'd respect this guy so much more if he would just shut the fuck up. Even my kids think he whine too much. Rodgers probably whined to get Robert Saleh fired. There's a reason the Packers moved up in the draft to get Jordan Love in the first round. They were sick of your whiny ass and they needed some leverage to get you to shut up. There's a concept in the real world called fuck you money. It's when you have enough money to tell your boss, fuck you, I don't need your job. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay was the boss. He made 5 to 10 times as much as the coach and the GM after all. He was probably whining behind the scenes about this and that, so they got sick of listening to him bitching, so they drafted Jordan Love. Jordan Love was the fuck you money. Speaking of Jordan Love, the Packers beat the Rams despite a hilarious pick six by Jordan Love. Quarterbacks do stupid shit all the time. We know this. We've been Lions fans. We've seen Orlovsky do this. We've even seen Stafford do this kind of stuff. Speaking of Stafford, why is it that Stafford looks like a Hall of Fame first ballot every time he plays us? But when he plays the Packers, it looks like Ty Detmer or Mike McMahon gagged and stuffed him in the locker and snuck on his jersey. In Bears country, Caleb Williams looked good in destroying the Panthers, but I do take secret pleasure the fact that if there was a redraft just 5 weeks into the season, the Bears would have taken an entirely different quarterback in the name of Jaden Daniels. Still really early, though, so we'll see how it all works out. Last time Washington drafted guy number 2 overall, it was RG3, who was amazing at first, but ended his career with over 5,000 fewer career passing yards than Joey Harrington, and over 7,000 fewer passing yards than Rodney Peete. I had high hopes for Rodney Peete. He was the original number 9 QB before Stafford. I'm Jimmy Liao, University of Michigan Medical School grad, board certified in family medicine, lifelong Lions fan. This is the medical edition of the Detroit Lions podcast. Before I get to the game preview this week, I'm going to start with some other news from around the league. This involves the Guardian cap, and not in the way you might think. Jabril Peppers was suspended by the NFL indefinitely. He was charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, strangulation, and possession of a Class B substance believed to be cocaine. Jabril, you went to Michigan. You're embarrassing me and Tom Brady here. The shocking thing isn't that he went to Michigan, but that he wears a Guardian cap during the games. Somehow he's so worried about hurting his brain that he wears a Guardian cap, but he's also out there before the game dealing cocaine or using cocaine or probably both. Jabril, that doesn't make any sense, bro. All right, now let's move on to this week. The Lions get a rematch in one of the NFL's newest, fiercest rivalries. Wait, hold on. Never mind. It appears Brad Allen won't be there, so I guess we're only playing the Cowboys this week. Let me talk about my Cowboy game experience a couple of years ago. I went to the Dallas Stadium October the 23rd, 2022, so less than 2 years ago. This was just right before our big turnaround. We were 1-4 entering the game. The Cowboys were so damn cocky coming in. I remember Dak Prescott had been hurt. He made a point of trying to be back specifically for this Lions game because he thought it would be an easy one against the Lions defense. Well, we ended up making it tough for him. We were about to take the lead in the fourth quarter. We were at the 1-yard line, but Jamal Williams, love that guy, but he fumbled at the 1-yard line when we were just about to take the lead, and we ended up losing the game. I've never been more pissed off at a game. We ended up dropping to 1-5, and we were in the position for the number 1 overall pick at that time. A lot has changed in 2 years. Now we're one of the best teams in the league, and we're 3-point favorites entering this game. Other thoughts I had from that weekend, that stadium is halfway between Fort Worth and Dallas, so it's sort of out of the middle of nowhere. I took an Uber to the stadium, which was fine, but getting back from the stadium with an Uber is much more difficult if you guys have ever tried this before, because everyone's getting out at the same time. There is a Walmart just north of the stadium where a lot of people hang out, so I was hanging out there for a while, waiting for an Uber. I saw Amani Oruwarie's family there. They were all wearing Oruwarie shirts. Interestingly, he's playing for the Cowboys now. I would recommend bringing some cash in case you're planning on taking an Uber and you get desperate for a ride. There are a lot of unofficial non-Uber drivers looking to pick up riders. If you have cash, you'll be able to get a ride a lot quicker. Now, the stadium itself is fine, but maybe not as nice as it's hyped up to be. That scoreboard is huge, and I didn't really actually like it. I was sitting in the upper deck at the time, and that scoreboard is just in front of your face and clogging up the entire airspace. It sort of clutters up the entire field look. You can't even see the stadium or the stands across from you. So I didn't really like that big scoreboard right in the way there. I stayed in Dallas downtown at the time. It was a pretty interesting place. Not the nicest downtown, but pretty close walking distance to a lot of things. It was interesting to see the JFK assassination location, even though that was before my time. The Perot Museum of Science was fantastic. The Children's Aquarium was small but very good. They have a little fish pool there where there's fish that will eat the dead skin off your hands. That was a pretty cool experience to have fish gnawing on your fingers. No, these weren't piranha. These were just tiny little fish, so no danger unless you were in the pool for a very, very long time. All right, let's get to the Cowboys game preview. This might be the 5th straight game where we have an injury advantage. I think we definitely have one here. We're getting most of our guys back who are not on IR anyway. The Cowboys just lost 3 key edge rushers. So let's start with the Lions report. It's technically an estimate, but they've already had practice Monday and Tuesday, so there have already been 2 practices this week. Frank Ragnow, pec tear, as we know, 2 weeks ago, left pec, mild strain. He's already logged 2 practices. He's got an FP full practice on Wednesday. He's ready to go. No concerns here. Brian Branch, who had a concussion 3 weeks ago and a mystery illness 2 weeks ago, has a full practice today. He's more than ready to go now. He was probably ready to go last week. No concerns with him. Christian Mahogany, good news, a full practice. His 21-day practice window started yesterday. He was practicing again for the first time since OTAs in the offseason. Remember, he did not practice at all throughout training camp or at all throughout the regular season. This is the first time he's been on the practice field. His mental game is going to be the limiting factor here. The FP full practice suggests that from a physical standpoint, he's probably ready to go if the Lions needed him. But I expect the Lions to use the entire 21-day practice window before actually activating him to the roster, though, because the guys ahead of him are all healthy. Now, there are a bunch of guys that are unlisted who are notable. Kirby Joseph and Carlton Davis were both down for a little bit at last game against the Seahawks. Kirby looked like had a right side oblique or a back strain. I had a concern that there might be an aggravation of his right hip injury from last year, as the injury mechanism was the same. Fortunately, he's not on the report, which doesn't totally rule out an aggravation of his hip issue, but it is a very good sign. Carlton Davis was down for a little while after getting hit hard in the right chest. Looked like might have been favoring his left shoulder area. Fortunately, nothing that came out of it. Maybe it was just a wind issue. Broderick Martin was not on the list because he's still on IR with a right knee hyperextension from August the 24th. He was seen working with a trainer earlier this week, though, so I'd expect him to start his 21-day practice window fairly soon, maybe even next week. All right, now let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys report. Their report is much lengthier than ours. Let's start with the big one, Micah Parsons. No practice with his left high ankle sprain, which he hurt 2 weeks ago. He's already missed 1 game for it. I fully expected he would miss our game as well, and this no practice basically confirms that. With as much stress as Micah Parsons puts on that ankle for his edge rushing, bending, quick cuts, that ankle really needs to be at almost close to full strength for him to want to return to play, so I do not expect him to be back for our game. Tyler Guyton, the starting left tackle, hurt his knee last game in the second quarter and left for the rest of the game. But the injury is apparently minor. Jerry Jones already stated he has a good chance to play, and the FP today confirms that. In his place last game, Tyler Smith had moved from left guard to left tackle, and TJ Bass had moved in at left guard. TJ Bass looked like he struggled quite a bit on multiple plays last game, so if Tyler Guyton has some kind of aggravation during the game, maybe we look to try to attack that left guard position. Durang Bland, who's a first-team All-Pro cornerback, had an FP today. He's been out the whole season due to a stress fracture in his fifth metatarsal. That location is the location of a Jones fracture. That's a location of the foot that can be a tricky area for healing due to a lack of blood flow. There's a higher risk of malunion, which means the bone does not heal properly, and a higher risk of refracture. Now, with his return, that means he's past the malunion risk. It's healed, but there's still a refracture risk for really the rest of his career. So the Cowboys are going to ease him in to minimize that refracture risk, especially early on. Other guys of note, Eric Hendricks had an NP with a calf and shoulder, but he played 100% of defensive snaps last game, so I'm guessing this is just a rest precautionary issue. Nick Vigil, inside linebacker with a foot, an NP. He's only a special teams player, though. He did not log a defensive snap in the past 3 games. The rest of the guys on the Cowboys list are not overly concerning from a Cowboys standpoint. Marquise Bell, safety, had an illness with an NP. Again, illness usually means they can play for the game. Keelan Carson, cornerback, shoulder FP. Trayvon Diggs, cornerback, ankle FP. FPs are all very likely to play during the game. Marist Lufau, linebacker, quad FP. Zach Martin, guard, starting guard. It's a rest day, no practice. So that's really it from the Dallas Cowboys injury standpoint. There are some guys unlisted, though, who are very notable. DeMarcus Lawrence, right list Frank injury 2 weeks ago. He's on IR. He's out. He's their starting star defensive end along with Micah Parsons, so that's a huge loss. The guy filling in for both of them was Marshawn Nealon, who's also out on IR due to a right knee torn lateral meniscus, having arthroscopic surgery this week. So 3 main key edge rushers out for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see if this affects their defensive pass rush. We'll see how they compensate. We'll see if it affects their rush defense. Jared Goff and the running game really should be able to take advantage of this again this week. Brandon Cooks is also out on IR due to a right knee infection. I talked about this last week. A joint infection is no joke. It can take a long time to recover from. It's a very serious issue. The loss of Cooks, though, probably not going to have a significant impact on the game, as they have a pretty productive wide receiver core. We all know about CeeDee Lamb, who torched us last year. Jalen Tolbert, their number 2 wide receiver, has had a very productive year. And Kavontae Turpin, their speedy returner, got a lot of touches last game and filled in pretty well. So our pass defense is still going to be a big question mark for the rest of this year, including this game. So we'll see how the Lions handle it this game. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching and listening. Enjoy the game Sunday.